Dr. McFall, would you lead us in a prayer?
Absolutely. We bow our heads. Father God, we thank you for this day and we thank you for this time to come together to take care of the business of Shelton Independent School District. Father, we ask a special blessing over Shelton ISD Board of Trustees. We thank them for their time, Lord, and we ask that you give them supernatural wisdom and power as they make decisions regarding our students. We thank you for your traveling grace here, and we thank you for the safe return home in advance. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. For the record show, our board members present, with the exception of Ms. Palmer and Ms. Miles. Okay. And move into reports and discussions.
Okay. So we will start with the bond and facilities report. We have a couple of different reports that's going to be encompassed in that particular board agenda item. So I will turn it over to Mr. Webster, and we will move from there. We have a couple of architecture firms here, as well as our program management firm, so they will all present at their respective times.
Okay, so we want to talk with you a little tonight about the Craven's early childhood expansion. I was on vacation at the board meeting, so I wasn't able to get in front of you and talk about some things that we've been doing there and where we are in that process. Also want to talk about the Knoll Middle School expansion, kind of where we are just real quick. The 9th and 10th grade, we are finishing up design process. So that one, as far as floor plan, so you get a sneak peek tonight, okay? Just a preview, not the full movie. Then we're going to talk about exhibit concepts and SISD property review. So I'm going to turn it over to JP Grom with LAN, and he's going to talk with you about kind of where we're at in this process.
I'm going to give you a refresh before I do that, though, JR.
Okay.
So just as a reminder, this expansion, what it's about. So this is an expansion that will add 6 additional classrooms to the facility, as well as 2 special education classrooms. So that's the scope of this project. It's been in design for quite some time, and we brought it to this point where we've bid the project finally. You might remember that the board used and approved the method called competitive sealed proposals. Competitive sealed proposals is a method that takes not only the price that the contractor provides to you, but also combines that with other qualifications-based information so that we can then score that contractor with those 2 combination factors. We did move out for procurement with the competitive sealed proposal process after y'all gave us the authority to do so. Proposals were submitted, and we had a great response for this project. Considering its size, 6 companies submitted proposals for this project, including a number of alternates that were bid with the project. We did have 1 submission that was disqualified for some missing information. So in the end, we had 5 firms that we ended up completing an evaluation for. I mentioned that when you use a competitive sealed proposal process, you are using not only the price, but a scoring rubric. And that rubric's been provided for you today, so you can see how each of these firms stacked up, not only in the price component of their offering to the district, but also in several dimensions of their qualifications. Those might include things such as similar experience, the qualifications of their individual personnel, so on and so forth, that are evaluated for each individual firm, scored against the other firms that have submitted to give us a qualifications aspect of their, to add to their price component of their response. When we were done with that exercise, the scoring rubric told us the answer, and that was that Frost Construction ended up in first place with a score of 84.22. The next contractor in line was Tegrity with a score of 67.75. The third contractor was Prime with 52.74. And then the last contractor we're showing on the screen here was Nash, who scored 38.73. So what are we asking of the board tonight? We're asking for you to endorse and move forward with the use of Frost Construction for this project. You can see the motion language in your board packet, and we would appreciate a vote towards accomplishing this project and getting it going forward. Now, if you say yes and we move forward, you might be asking, what are the next steps in this project? So here they are. Number 1, a notice to proceed will be issued to the contractor as early as tomorrow so that they can begin procurement of their materials, the execution of the contract, and those sorts of things. Then construction will occur. The construction will occur from the notice to proceed all the way out until July 18th, 2024. That would be the substantial completion date. You've heard that term before, I presume, but for those of you that may be a little fuzzy here on this Thursday night, substantial completion is when that project is ready for us as a district to step in and start making use of that facility. So that will be running right up to the deadline of July 18th. So this is tight. So it's important to move this thing forward. Substantial completion and move-in will occur from the 19th through the time that the teachers are walking into the door and the students are walking into the door. That date has not been set, but if we make some assumptions about other calendars, we're looking at August 9th, 2024. And we welcome those students on the 12th. Assuming it's a Monday, y'all can decide that. So that is the recap on the Cravens.
So I wanted to, and thank you for that presentation, JP. What I wanted to make sure the board had was the information on the competitive seal proposal evaluation. So that way you will see how these particular contractors were evaluated. That way you would see that the process was pretty detailed in making sure that the correct contractors were selected to come aboard agenda items with you all to consider for.
Okay, so that's Cravens. We're going to take a quick look at Knoll.
Well,
Go
before we
ahead.
move to Craig, I mean, to Noel, I mean, I don't, we haven't seen a layout or anything, a design or anything of the Cravens facility. I know we're building again what we've built in the past, but maybe 3 board members had not been on board since we've seen that. So do we have,
Yeah, we do.
okay. And
I
we
can
need that
get
for
that.
Noel also.
I have Knoll.
Okay.
Also, we just did, yeah.
Okay. Because that's part of this whole, so that everybody can be aware of what we're doing, what we're building, what it's going to look like. You know, and I know you've got the 9th and 10th grade and so on, but as we progress into those, even though we've done it before, you know,
So-
it's been some time since we have.
Do you want to move into that, Jared? Get that. if
We
pull
can
it up.
look at that right now.
Okay.
We had it up, but the Cravens, the classrooms are exactly the same as the classrooms that we have. So we're just replicating those. The change is going to be that, and we're going to talk later about exhibit concepts.
And then what we're removing are the space that we're taking up now. When we did the last one, we had to move a playground, had to move some stuff around. So what are we having to do now on that, you know, on the
And-
exterior of it? And then it's just the last opportunity we're going to have to expand there, probably.
You know, I would tell you that looking at the building, that's probably going to be one of your last opportunities because now you're looking at the top of an H. And so you have that courtyard in the back. And unless there's a way to fill that in and take away that playground from kids, that's probably going to be the capacity. The other thought process there is how large would we want to make an early childhood
Yeah.
campus? We're looking at a 600, now 700, student population. And to go much more than that, that causes other things there. But Susan, do you want to?
Yeah, so the capacity of the building was at almost 95%. With this addition, it goes down to 83% functional capacity. With that, every classroom can have the potential of adding more students into it. With that said, this building is going to be about 94,000 square feet. And that is probably what you would need from a facility for this age group. So to confirm what JR was just saying, this is probably the cap of the amount of classrooms that you would want in a facility like this to be able to manage it properly. There is hardly any availability on the site to expand right now. There is this area over here that we potentially could look into something, but it's not really as accessible or very far from the admin if you go back here. To quickly update you on that wing is going to be placed on the south side. and it's going to split the current playground. The existing playground over here is going to remain. We're going to relocate the, two of the playgrounds. There is a new playground and there's relocated swings over here. We are keeping their vegetable garden and we're adding a detention pond because of the additional impervious coverage and more slabs on the ground over here. We are widening that road off of Tedwell, and we are extending the canopy over here to allow for a longer car rider line. The next thing that we can look at is the overall pretty much shows the same story. We can go to the next one. Basically, it's 6 classrooms that are typical, in addition to 2 special ed rooms that were modified to have their own shared restroom and a storage. Boys and girls restroom, gang restroom over here, mechanical, electrical room, custodial closet, staff restroom, and a long workroom and storage over here. So pretty much it mimics the other side that's currently in the same facility. With that, it is going to have pretty much all the updated IT and technology that's currently in the district standards with ceiling speakers, Wi-Fi, front row system, clocks, and then of course the teacher area, marker boards, tack boards, and the rest of the casework. So the exterior of that would look exactly or as close as possible to what the building is. So we've matched the existing building. So this would not look like an afterthought. It should not look like something that of a different nature. We've used the same language, the same height of the windows as the other side, the same colors of the aluminum, and the same type of coursing and colors of brick. So this is what the interior of the classroom, kind of like a quick perspective of what it would look like. Well, after discussing exhibit concepts, I mean, you will see.
We'll show you in a little bit.
That this will get reduced so we can have more wall space for that work. This is a quick perspective of what it would look like on the outside. There will be playground equipment over here and on the other side. This is all behind secured fencing as well. And I wanted to show you quickly what a canopy would look like, an extension of the canopy. The existing canopy is not colored, so you can kind of see what it would look like. And then that is pretty much mimicking exactly what those would look like to expand on what's there rather than it looking as like an afterthought. And that's about the extent of the design. It's very simple, straightforward, and to facilitate what the campus really needs.
So as we're doing the same thing, it does that way. When we're doing the 9th grade campus, obviously we're changing or upgrading things. And I know we want to try to keep it as close to the existing building, but do the windows, the locations of the windows, the locations of the doors, and all that, does that work? Is it function, not just
For
function?
the high school?
No, for
Yes.
the addition.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we have an opportunity now to change things if we want, to add more windows for natural sunlight and
The
things like that. This is our opportunity
we met-
to do that.
We met with the campus, we met with the director of early childhood, and they were very happy with the size of the rooms, the layout of the rooms. The thing that we're changing within the rooms is there's a change, they wanted a change in casework. They still want the cubbies, but if we're gonna go towards that exhibit concepts type theming and experiential education, we're gonna have to take out a couple of those so that they can make room for those wall vinyls and stuff.
I'll also say when working with exhibit concepts, we want to keep windows to keep, a similar architectural design to the building. But working with Exhibit Concepts, they actually prefer no windows in the classroom in order to get the entire experience of the learning. But we're choosing to deviate from that because
Yeah.
we understand the importance of sunlight in classrooms. And so we're going to, continue to design around that, but it will require for us to lose some of the cabinetry in the classroom in order to be able to wrap the walls.
One of the change orders that's actually there is, do you remember when we built Cravens, we had those big corner TV cabinets when TVs were, this deep? I remember trying to get Brandon to sit down and not go to the TV. I'm just kidding. So part of one of the change orders is actually to take those out throughout the room. That purpose is gone.
This is part of what's included in this proposal.
Yes.
The base bid of that proposal, so that
Oh,
would be
I'm sorry.
included in the work. With that said, day lighting is available at every single classroom. And if they need to shut it, we have provided blinds so they can close it and keep it as dark as possible for their purposes. If there's a presentation or they need a specific lesson plan that needs a darker room.
So are we doing a backup generator there?
We have an alternate.
We have an alternate on there, and I said change order. It's actually an alternate for the cabinetry, and then alternate is for the generator.
And then the existing, the reception desk, is that the main reception desk?
Yeah, that front reception desk, there's some wear and tear that's showing. And so that is our first impression. And so being able to just take that out and replace it or re-veneer, we're looking at some options there.
And then it was also for,
So you'll see like replacement of vinyl wall covering. That's throughout the building. There's that wallpaper is 22. Is that right? 22 years old.
Yeah.
And it needs a little bit of attention. We have the voice evacuation system upgrade. That's for fire.
that's not PA, that's something totally.
No, that's separate.
Okay.
Separate. You're right. And then we have the demolish existing platform curtain. The curtain in the in their cafeteria, it needs some tender love and care. And then putting in second one, yeah.
So yeah, and this is part of what I think, we should be aware of. It's not just the addition. We're also doing some renovations in the campus to make things better also.
Yes.
I'm all for that. But as we go through our projects and we go understand what exactly we're doing, I wasn't aware of it. I think the board was also, so that we can be aware of exactly what we're doing, not just the addition
So
for the week, and take this opportunity to do that also.
we were gonna put those into that facility sustainment.
Yeah.
But we were able to pull these alternates in under the construction and then be able to reduce some of our costs by doing it that way. So, yeah.
And what's the square footage?
This building is 11, the addition by itself is 11,282.
Okay.
Any questions? Yeah. I'm not a fan of no windows in the classroom. We're at the intermediate, they have the long slant windows at the old campus at the intermediate. And those kids come out of there saying it was like a prison. There's no windows, no sunlight, no natural lighting. And they would, I know Jacob did, thought they didn't like it, they didn't like it.
And studies have shown that daylighting is a major component of performance.
Yeah, so I'm just.
Yes.
They have sunlight.
I know, but the sun's still out there.
So it's still like they get so when they go from this thing.
You need to really get out for recess.
They gonna mess it up. Oh, yeah.
It's better on the wall.
Exactly. I like the picture that they did, but they just picked out.
So, Knoll Middle School, just to give you an update there, and we will have the floor plans and some pictures. We can put that back into the board information packet for the July I'm sorry, yeah, the July regular meeting. What day we're at. But we've been through design, we provided the floor plan for Knoll once to the board. So hopefully everybody has everybody, have you seen it, Ms. Roseman?
I got a chance to see it when I went out to know.
Okay,
Mhm.
so, that's the additional wing. We've been through call for proposals. Now, I will be absolutely honest with you. We weren't getting a response. We were a little bit nervous. So we extended that window by, was it 2 weeks?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. And now, we did have, on closed sale proposals, we received 3. So if we hadn't extended it, I was worried that we might only receive 1. So we wanted to make sure that we had options. And so by extending it those 6 weeks, we did receive 3 proposals. We'll score those. We'll bring those to the board, forward to the board at the July meeting.
So what do we believe was the reason for that?
So what we're hearing is the reason is that there is a lot of work out there. That over 70% of school bonds passed. And when you look at some of the projects that are out there, like Spring High School is actually building a new high school. So there are some big projects out there that are available. The other thing that we're hearing is that there is a shortage of workforce. Some people don't have project managers that are freed up in order to take on a project. So we felt like if we could move the Knoll project back just slightly, so that some people who are wrapping up building facilities in the summer, because those facilities are opening this fall, that some of those project managers may become available in order to take on those projects. Okay, so that's where we're at. Now, 9th and 10th grade campus, we've been through our visioning meetings, really seeing what that educational philosophy and what the needs of the students were. We've done our planning. We determined the program of spaces, and that's when we did our contract with Huckabee and what spaces will be programmed into that building. We've had our user groups. We've talked about each specific instructional program: science, fine arts, special ed, CTE, every CTE program, physical education, special education, athletics, all of those programs. And so where we're at right now is we are finalizing the floor plan to ensure that the quantity, the adjacency, and the size of the program spaces are adequate. So I'm going to let Mr. Barnes, Timothy, come up. He is our project manager for Huckabee. And he's going to talk about the schematic designs for your 9th and 10th grade campus.
Thank you. So as Mr. Meadows said, we're wrapping up the schematic design phase. We've had numerous meetings with your design committee to make sure that the 9th and 10th grade center meets all the educational needs of your community. And that also is kind of right size for Sheldon for now and for the future. So as we talked about from our previous presentation, you know that the final location has been confirmed. We're located at just across the community drive between, it's not going to, the light's not going to work, but off of Community Drive between C.E. King Parkway and the elementary school, just across from those athletic fields is where the 9th and 10th grade center is going to be located. We talked about how we're going to be able to access for bus traffic and service vehicles off of Community Drive, bring them around here to the rear of the campus. We'll have stall parking for pickup in the afternoon. Drop off, we'll be able to continue around, drop the kids off at the student entry here, and then exit back out to Community Drive. We have the parents and visitors access coming in also off Community Drive with stacking distance here. Obviously, I think we talked about in our last meeting that we're still waiting on the traffic impact analysis just to confirm the amount of stacking distance we need. But right now, we're anticipating double lane stacking at the front of the campus with about 60 to 65 parking spaces in the front, with staff and potentially some student parking at the rear of the campus. And of course, maintaining a fire access lane around the building that's required by code.
And before you move forward, when you look at the entrance for the buses, that's going to line up directly across from the road that goes behind the indoor practice facility, so that we have the ability to cross straight across. And then the student parking, we're still kind of working that out. We had student parking at the back, but what we felt like was we didn't really want kids who were just starting to drive walking through staff members' cars to get to their car. you know, I have a bad day, I pull my key out and scratch somebody's car. So we're still working out some of that adjacency there.
And we've kind of left ourselves enough flexibility in here where if we need to shift the staff and faculty parking down some to get more capacity for the students, it allows that kind of flexibility.
And what is that area? Can you talk to them a little bit about the area behind the student entry? We have some trees and stuff.
So right here, this is where the cafeteria dining area, there's some natural lighting that's gonna be coming to the space. So what we've done is created almost like a plaza that allows for some collaborative interaction between the students in an outdoor environment. There's a canopy that comes out of this entry here. It also ties into the one for the bus access. So we'll kind of create some of that collaborative space on the exterior of the building as well. And then you'll see this in a minute as I kind of go into the floor plan, but just as a reminder, when we talk about the way this is being orientated is that we have all the athletic facilities on this side of the building to maintain that close proximity to the fields with the central dining and admin area here. And then the academic pod, two-story academic pod is here with the CTE on the left-hand side of the building.
Can you go back on the retention? Is there, since we have the retention right across the street, is there any way, since we can't use the property the area that we wanted to use originally, is there any way to expand that to run retention into those instead of having to build another retention pond?
So one of the things we looked at is we tried to maintain that detention or retention up front here. It would push the campus back even further.
No, there's an area across.
Is detention, right? We have two detention ponds.
We have one, and the one is kind of enclosed. It's that other one that you're looking at, and could we move that further back? I think
We
that
can't use that land now anyway.
we may be able to use that. We just have to do some mitigation.
Yeah, but if we wind up putting everything on this side of Community Drive.
Yeah.
I mean, is there an option there instead of having to build a new detention pond?
I think, Fred, you'll have to build detention either way. So this is keeping it in closer proximity to the actual work site. When there is future development, then we can take advantage of the ideas that you're laying out, but that would be after some mitigation strategies are in.
So because of the mitigation, we couldn't do anything over there anyway, even if
It's not on the schedule we're trying to make.
okay.
Because it takes a while to go through those permitting and mitigating measures with the improvement.
Yeah, I didn't know, because if we don't build anything, if we could just expand for a pond, basically, that would
No, it's the same.
make a difference in what they required.
Yep, modification of the property, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, okay, all right. All right, so to kind of quickly get into the floor plan, as I talked about, the main entry facing Community Drive with the admin on the right-hand side, allowing that visibility from the back to the visitors parking, the main entry to the campus with the media center adjacent to that. Of course, this main corridor brings you into the dining facility, and then the main student corridor brings you into the academic pod and the CTE pod on the left-hand side with fine arts, athletics, and some of those art classrooms, and of course, the large group instructional spaces, which allows for that, once again, that collaborative nature on the right-hand side of the building. And you hear me talk about the academic pod, of course, it's the 2 stories. It's the only 2-story component to the new 9th to 10th grade center. So those will be kind of stacked on top of each other. And it's set up in a way to allow supervision with the central academic areas between the pods on both the first level and the second level of the 9th to 10th grade center. Yes, sir.
I want to let you know, we really did listen to what you all said last time about collaboration and making sure that we are aligned to what our philosophy has been. And so we've added in different collaborative areas throughout. We added a new maker space, a new collaboration room on the media center. That large group instruction area is able to be subdivided. We're putting in a collaboration space outside along with a special education outside area, outside of their outside learning area. There'll be some areas also in the hallways that we'll be able to kind of mimic those areas that we have at the high school in a smaller type of setting. But we wanted to make sure we do that LGI, that large group instruction space. That one will have a wall where you can split it into 2/3 and 1/3. But that area is 2,500? 2,500 square feet. So if we have something after hours for this, They could use that as a large staff development area. They could use that as an area during the school day for like, think of your dual credit kids who on Fridays maybe don't have a class, an area for them to go to also.
And then you also see some of that same component in the dining area. You know, we talked about the exterior collaboration space just outside the dining area, and then also one inside the dining. Here's the large roof structure, and you can see how it's kind of, all this is centrally located. We allow the kids easy access to the space. It also allows for after-hour use of the gymnasium areas on this side of the building where you can still kind of be locked off if needed, as needed. But once again, maintaining that supervision by having the associate principal at the end of this hallway, as well as located sporadically throughout the building, strategically throughout the building. And here you just see a blow up of the CTE program. As I said, we've been working very closely with the committee to make sure that each space is accounted for. On this end of the CTE wing, we have the large volume spaces. There'll be roll up doors at each of those spaces, allow them to have easier access to the exterior from the classroom space. And then some of your typical classroom sizes, whether it's the health science, graphic design lab, these are more your lower volume space. They're in the central portion of that CTE wing of the building. And as I said, so we're starting to wrap up. And before I get to that, this what you see here is the outdoor physical education facility. I think Mr. Mills talked about earlier. There are locker rooms for the soccer and softball. There's also training facilities. Now this is facing the current stadium. This is over here where you have your existing athletic fields. There's a centralized weight room that's open to these spaces that can be utilized by both each of the sports that's in here. With football components, both the JV, freshman, and varsity teams on the upper part of the outdoor facility. There's a conference room in there that's able to be subdivided into two spaces, kind of similar to what you have here. So if they wanted to, they could pull off in one area, defense in another, or they could open up for an entire sport to utilize. With the coach's office space, once again, centrally located to allow monitoring of all the activity to take place in this facility. And as Mr. Mendel said, so this is kind of just a sneak preview. We're going to give you the full show on this on the 18th. We're also kind of working on some exterior aesthetics, so we'll bring those back. Several different options for the board to take a look at, and we'll want to give your feedback. As I said, we're working very closely with your design committee, making sure that all the educational needs for these facilities are being met. We've been tweaking, moving spaces around from the last time you saw this. We're going to continue to do that. We're going to now also start diving into some of the details of what happens in each of those spaces. We're getting equipment lists from the various CTE programs and develop actual workout layouts of equipment. Same thing on culinary places like that. So we're continuing the progress of moving 9th and 10th grade center forward.
And we're gonna we've been over a few different like designs for the front. But we're gonna bring a few options to the board so that you guys can, and ladies, can tell us what you like. Okay, I mean ultimately that's your building. I may like something in the front and you may say like whatever like that. So but we're gonna bring some different things and then you can kind of get some feedback. I know that when we built the high school, that was one of the things. What does that facade look like? So okay.
So the athletic building is going to be across Community Drive.
Yes, that'll be adjacent to the current athletic fields.
Why put it there?
To give easier access from the high school, kids that are at the high school as well as the 9th and 10th grade center. So kind of a central location between both those parties and having access to the field.
Because those kids,
If we already have those facilities, why does the high school 11, 12 need that facility?
well, so you're thinking that like those facilities at the high school right now are built for a capacity of 3,500 kids. And so we're adding 2,200 kids. We would have to build those facilities at the 9th and 10th grade. But athletics says like, we're going to bus those kids. We're not going to have 9th and 10th grade football at the 9th and 10th grade. We're bringing them all over. So we need to have facilities over there. Otherwise, we're going to bus them and they're going to have to change at the 9th and 10th grade, get on a bus, go back, forth. They want to try to build that program up because you're going to have some kids who are in, like, I guess, 10th grade who are playing varsity and different ones. And so they're really trying to get one area and then allow that area that was at the high school to see as we expand, that would become the soccer, the basketball, the other ones. We will have some for basketball here. But those programs that are outside, that would be their area. So you're looking at your football, your softball, those types of things.
Another thing that Fitz pointed out, because I did have a chance to attend the last design meeting, one of the things that Fitz shared is when the football team travels or any of those teams that are going to have locker rooms there, they can just go to that building instead of going into the high school. So that way they're able to keep things confined to that one space, get the kids in, change your clothes, get all of your stuff, and then your parents will be able to come and pick you up from that building instead of going all the way into the high school.
So that facility is gonna house enough athletes for 5,500.
For those sports that are outside,
Yeah,
yes. Yeah, and it allows us to repurpose those ones that are inside, so that soccer and golf are not sharing. Soccer has theirs, golf has theirs. Because there's some areas right now where kids are able to access other sports locker rooms. And so that's causing problems, and we can resolve that. We would have had to build this space onto the school. So rather than building it onto the school, we're able to separate this out. We're still within our budget. Right now, we're looking at possibly a metal frame building with a brick veneer. So that's going to bring that cost down. So it will be from when you walk out of the stadium. And if you were to walk out of the stadium towards the indoor practice facility, it would be on that left.
Here's the softball field, here's Community Drive, and it's right here.
It would be up a little bit. And then you're still going to have those discus and other areas there.
I think right now you have a football field or practice field here. Just here, and it's between the softball and baseball field.
And the other thing that this is allowing us to do is, because we're going to move the athletes over, we're not going to build a track here. We're not going to build an all-weather track. We're going to add on to the bleachers at the current track on each side, and then we can utilize that track for district track meets. All we'll have to do is add a practice field over on the other side just to.
And in our presentation on the 18th, you'll see that overall site plan like we had the last time. We'll bring that back so you can see the overall layout. Thank you.
Okay.
Not just me.
There we go.
Okay, so we want to talk a little bit about exhibit concepts. We know that we're working with Fueling Brains on that curriculum. We've seen some things that exhibit concepts has done. Dr. Mustin has talked to you a little bit about building educational experience that are themed to environments that kids move through. And so you might come into a classroom that looks like this. And so in this one, if you'll notice, there's very specific areas that kids sit at based on that theme. So it might be like, Dr. McCall, I need you to go sit at the campfire. And J.R. Webster, I need you to go to the canoe. And Ms. Williams-White, you're going to go to the cooler. Okay, so that kids have different areas throughout. You're really building that language as you move through your environment. Here's another area that was designed for that multi-sensory instruction. and then one more. And so when we talk to Exhibit Concepts, they've presented us some pricing. And so what we're looking at for their cost of 28 classrooms, remember that's 14 rooms, but it's two themes. So there's 14 at Cravens, 14 at Sheldon Early Childhood. And so their phase one, you're looking at about $15,000 per classroom for that design, for those experiences. And so that's going to come out to about 249,000. And then the phase 2 and 3 is your fabrication. It is your delivery. It is your installation. And so all together with their two contracts, their design and their fabrication, the district's looking at a cost of about $3.4 million for that. Now, there will be some additional costs for us to be bringing up some of the walls, the finishes, up to a level 5 finish, so that when these things are installed, they are installed for the long term. We don't want to put something up and spend the money on designing it and installing it and having the wall not be smooth enough to keep that up. So, but that is what their proposal is right now. Are there any questions about that? This just came through, and so we'd like to start moving on that because it would be a 12-month process on that. And Dr. McCall has a lot of experience in this area. I think you've worked with Exhibit Concepts.
Yeah, so my previous projects, we have 40 classrooms across the district that we work with Concepts on. They do a design contract, but then also a fabrication contract. I would caution that if we're going to move forward with this, that we'll go ahead and take a look at both contracts at the same time, because ordering materials, there are still delays there. So based on what the design elements are that we select, they need to go ahead and start ordering those materials to make sure that the classrooms can be outfitted by the time we need them for our pre-K students. And so this is a way for us to really look at what the total cost will be and begin having conversations on what does that look like for Sheldon ISD.
Well, what does it do for our kids?
Absolutely. So when you're looking at immersive learning experiences, especially partnered with the Fuel and Brains curriculum, it's all about building vocabulary through experiences that the students learn. And so we can't take pre-K students on field trip experiences every single week. And so we bring the field trips to them. And so the way that you develop vocabulary and schema is through experiences. And so if you're looking at the one on the left-hand side, in my previous district, we call that on the go. You're learning A through Z vocabulary specifically to that theme. Then you go to the next one, you're doing the same thing. And so by the end of the school year, the pre-K students would have experienced all 12 themes. Not only are they building vocabulary, but they're building experience, which will in turn help them with their schema as they're continuing to learn.
So they'll go through each.
Yes, they go through.
They're in
each
a,
one
it's a
of
classroom, so they transition
Yes,
through each.
they will
throughout
not
the
stay
year.
in the same classroom. By the end of the year, they would have experienced all of the different things.
So you'll have one that's left brain, one that's right brain. They'll be in like this schema on the go, left brain, right brain, and then they will move to maybe it's wetlands and Gulf Coast. And then they move 3 weeks later.
And so who determines what we, or who chooses, how is that chosen?
The themes, you mean?
The themes here, yeah.
Right. So what we would do is go through a process with Exhibit Concepts to talk about what themes represent the community, represent the industry, themes that are going to make an impact with them. And so when you're talking about Gulf Coast, well, we live in the Gulf Coast region of the country, so we would certainly want to have a room that covers that. When you're talking about, and even when we look at some of our CTE pathways, you're building that vertical alignment all the way through. So that way we could have high school students who are studying small animal management come and work with them in the pet vet room for pre-K students. So you're building it all the way from beginning to end. And so we would be purposeful in the selections that we had to represent the community or career interests that we're pushing students towards.
So we would decide as a
Absolutely.
district.
And they have some already that they've
Yeah.
done. And so if we look at one and say, oh, we like that, but change this to this, then we're good.
And-
Or we can say, oh, we love all of that, give us that.
Dr. Mustin has really taken that Fueling Brains curriculum and started to pull that down into 7.
Right, it's gonna match the actual themes from which they're learning in the Fueling Brains curriculum. So the environment does become the other teacher
in the classroom. So it's going to connect directly to the thing.
And so much of what,
Stations are more meaningful.
you know, I taught kindergarten and I taught middle school too, but so much of it is literacy and language. And children who are coming from lower economic, you know, homes, which is what we see, we're 85%, you know, free and reduced lunch. Their vocabulary is so significantly less. It is the words that they use, you know, their experiences. And so a lot of our kids aren't getting to go to, you know, some of these places for a weekend. And so we provide it at school. They
And I'll
see
tell
it.
you, we've done it for my previous district for a year. And the words that the students are using, the vocabulary that they're using, the way that they're able to explain their work is quite remarkable. It's a huge investment. I'm not gonna make it seem like $3.4 billion isn't a lot to work with. But I truly believe that when you see students going through the curriculum and then you're able to engage with them, they'll be using words that we don't expect from 4-year-olds to use. And that's a part of the experience, you know, model where they're able to build on that vocabulary very quickly because they're tied into an experience that they have fun with.
Is there a curriculum that goes along with it for each?
That's what Fueling Brains does. And so remember they were talking about
Yes.
right brain, left brain movement. And so depending on where they are in that particular curriculum, you could be doing right brain activities, left brain activities in the same things, but the experiences could be totally different. Because you're focusing on, you know, either right brain or left brain, depending on where you are in the curriculum and the training of the teacher.
But does Fueling Brains tie directly into, let's just say the one on the left with the camper and the cooler and the little pond, the stream there?
So we
What do they learn? What would they learn in that scenario? And or would Fueling Brains provide the curriculum for that? Say, okay, why is the cooler here? Why am I sitting on the cooler? What does the cooler do?
Right. So Fueling Brains designs the curriculum for that particular learning experience. And so we had them do some similar work in my previous district to where the curriculum tied into the experience.
Okay.
So no matter if we had a different teacher coming in, you know, he or she would see that this is the curriculum for that experience. Left brain activities, right brain activities, go.
And one of the things too is, and that, did Susan step out? So Susan worked with another district, A-Leaf recently in putting, Tim, you too, and working with this, putting this together at their early childhood. So you're seeing Goose Creek, you've seen now, A-Leaf, Texas City is coming on board. So you're seeing this trend in early childhood. People who, and you know, when you look at it, your high school, we have early college, we have STEM. At our elementaries, we have Compass. We have, at our middle school, we have the STEM program. We have Abbott. But what do we have at our early childhood to get these kids started?
So the
And you
Fueling,
know, it actually reminds you, have you ever taken your children to the children's museum?
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
The children's museum back when we were taking our kids is totally different. When you go now, you'll see models like that. And I always gonna bring up my baby, y'all. Miss Taylor's grandbaby. That's a 2-year-old girl. And her mom introduced me to Miss Rachel. And Miss Rachel kind of designs her little stuff like that. And when me and Alea went to the children's museum, she's 2. She used words that a normal 4-year-old don't use. I mean, you ask her something, she can articulate it to you just like, you know, she was helping me in the children's museum. And I was like, that don't go there. She said, yes, Nanny, it goes here. You place it here. You do this and you do. I said, well, you know, and that right there, you know, to put that into our early childhood, I mean, to me, I think it would be on a scale, it would top 100 because the children now, you know, the way that they learn now is totally different. And if you take your child to the children's museum now, you'll see that same concept just like that. And I think it's awesome.
so will Fueling Brains basically eventually, or it has already started transition, take over all of the curriculum for pre-K and K?
They
They're
could do it.
preparing themselves for world domination.
If
That's
it-
what
that's-
they're doing.
What
What happens if in the future
future, like 5, 6, 7 years from now, we decide not to use Building Branch?
Well, that's a
Will we
really
still
good
be able
question.
to use these
Really
amenities?
good question.
Because
Yes.
we could develop thematic units or purchase other curricula that has thematic units that could still fit these specific themes. And based on the fact that we also have them where they can be flipped so that we can get more out of it, I think we're making a very smart investment. And I'll just say, I got a chance to go visit some classrooms at several campuses. And we were able to go into one room where the kids had this type of learning experience, and then down the hall where it didn't exist in this fashion. The engagement of the students,
Yeah, it was, the level of engagement was,
totally different.
it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
There was not a kid that
Okay.
wasn't engaged in whatever the activity was, whether it be a sensory activity or a reading activity or a sing-along, whatever it was. Every kid was totally engaged. Of our entire visit at Goose Creek, one child came to speak to me.
Yeah, we walked into the room and it was like we weren't there.
If I go into a pre-K room, or let's say in Katy, if I go to a pre-K room in Katy, every single kid is going to look up, why are you here? What are you doing? But the kids that were in these classrooms like this, I was irrelevant because they were completely immersed in that activity.
And also, if you had a chance to visit our ECAs this year, you would have had the opportunity to see all the work our teachers put into creating these things.
Out of bulletin board paper and, yeah.
Cardboard, and they did an amazing job, but we would prefer to see them be able to spend more time on preparing the learning that's going to happen and let the environment already be in place. Because the things that they make are the materials that we're able to buy from a teacher supplied store or order from Amazon aren't very durable, or that they made themselves, which were fantastic. I think Dr. Mustin shared some of those photos from what our teachers did. But honestly, there's a lot of time involved in creating that environment and then turning around and doing it right.
I think too, to add on is, we are we're in a job market where it's hard to find teachers. And teachers can pick where they want to go. We've seen that unfortunately even between Knoll and King Middle, where people are like, oh, Knoll's new. You bring a teacher into a room that looks like this, and they go to a neighboring district that doesn't have something like this. I think the choice is pretty easy with our salary package and our compensation, overall compensation package, along with rooms that are designed for learning. I think that, I'd walk in and be like, yeah, I get this room.
And understand that, and you're absolutely right. You don't have difficulty finding educators that want to be in these spaces. But what you have to make sure is that they're up for the training that is required to teach in a space like this. And I'll tell you, Fueling Brains has a pretty tight process on that. It's like boot camp, and it's like hardcore professional development in order to teach in an environment like this. And so teachers have to be committed to this type of work.
Because that was the other thing, it's all, and I agree with it, it's just the process of training the teachers.
Right.
And then for them to continue to be engaged, because I put my grandkids in here, I can walk out and just let them play.
Yes.
That's not what I would want for the school, for the classroom.
Right.
You would, so it's taking that teacher, that instructor that's in there to make sure that because trust me, if I can do a playroom at the house like that, I put them in and I close the door and I'm gonna go take a nap. So that's, and that's what it looks like from the outside right now. It's a playroom, it's a nice playroom. And so the two campuses, would they mirror each other, or would we pick completely different ones for each? So we'd have an opportunity to have 24, different, or would they mirror?
They will mirror. We're doing it where we're designing the 14 rooms, but it will be 14 rooms at Craven's, and then we will replicate those rooms. Because the kids are not switching campuses. We want all of those kids to have those. But what we are doing in order to do some cost savings and things is the rooms will serve two themes. So it might be wetlands and Gulf Coast, and you might be able to think of like a table that is a pool table, and then on top of it is, table tennis. You take the the table tennis thing off and you flip it over, you have a different theme, you have a different visual.
And I want to be, and I don't think you were saying this, but I want to be clear that the activities are very structured. And so the kids, even though they're in these rooms, they're still moving in like centers. So when they're I'm trying to think of one of the experiences, there was a table and it has sand on one side and water on the other. So the kids were learning the
Oh.
physics and the science behind, you take the sand out, you put it in the water and you take it back out and you dehydrate it. What does that mean? And they're learning things like dehydration and saturation, hydroponics. And then they do that for 20, 30 minutes and then they go to another station. So it's incredible. There's no free play per se. They still have recess and things like that for free play, but it's very structured.
And so if I can, for me, it's almost like back in the day, like you said, we had the stations. And we had like the opera or we dressed up, we had the little kitchens, even though it looked like it's play. This is just a more modernized learning experience, because even if you put them in the classroom, they're still learning, even though if you're not an educator, you don't realize that they're actually learning. It's just like if you do the Alamo as one of the themes. So they're getting Texas history at an early age, which is developing the brain. Because by the time they're 5, their brains are already kind of developed. And so they'll take that with them. So when they get to elementary or middle school and they're on the curriculum of learning Texas history, they still kind of remember what happened when they were in the concept. So that would kind of help you on another.
And for pre-K, that dramatic play is
Right.
important. So if I'm in the polar region,
Right.
and I'm in an igloo, I'm learning that vocabulary.
And I'm learning
I'm
that
gonna
it's
put
cold.
on my parka. I'm
Yes.
gonna learn about temperature. And so I am going to relate that to my day-to-day life and for things that I don't see in my environment. Because we would love to know what wearing a parka is like in Houston,
Yeah.
right?
It doesn't mean that we're gonna turn the HVAC all the way down there.
There's so little data for pre-K
Yeah.
on how they're coming out and going to once they, so, and all this is, and I have to wrap, for me, I like to wrap my head around it. Is this based on data that we're already seeing from these programs? I mean, it all sounds great and yeah, it makes perfect sense. But I mean, these, for me, we're still just starting with fueling brains. So we're just starting with fueling brains, and now with exhibit concepts, we're tying into this 3.5 million plus fueling brains. Long term, what data are we seeing that, and I get it, it does. I mean, I don't see a negative part of it, but is there anything that's backing that up data wise?
Yeah, so I'll speak to the data that we provided for, when I was in Goose Creek, what we provided to Sheldon ISD to show how many students were prepared for kinder, how many students were prepared for first, based on not just knowing what your sight words are, but we're talking about vocabulary to where when the students were tested on specific vocabulary, they were ready to go into first grade. Now, taking on an initiative like this, you're pretty much making a 5-year commitment.
Yeah.
Because you're saying that by the time these students get to the 3rd grade, we expect to see X, Y, Z. But even in the early elementary grades, having students that are more prepared for those foundational years, your data's going to tell a story. And so this is not something, and I see where you're going with this, this is not something that we're going to do and then tomorrow we're going to see 3rd grade star scores, go through the roof. But it is a commitment that we're making to make sure that our pre-K is the foundation. It's a true foundation for making sure students are prepared for elementary school and beyond.
Anyway, even at the cost of 3.5 and the million or whatever, different what the fueling brains was, I mean, that's got to be a minimum 5-year commitment to do that.
Absolutely.
To spend that time.
And I know right now there was a big disconnect from kinder to first.
Yeah.
The teachers are seeing a big difference.
And that's been
Hopefully-
ongoing.
Right, hopefully this will kind of bridge that gap that they're wanting.
And so as we talked about fueling rates last time, just being at pre-K and K, and then how do we transition that into first grade where now there's just, okay, everything you learned in pre-K and K, now we're doing something 100% different. I mean, how, and then by the time they get to 3rd grade, you know, they've had that advancement in those at 4 and 5 years old, but how do we continue that? Or is there a plan or an idea to continue that on? I don't know what that looks like or what it exists but you know, to have this type of investment in pre-K and K and then
All of a sudden
fall off. Yeah,
I'll
so,
let Karen take that.
oh, okay, Karen. Oh, Ms. Gallo, you have the answer. Okay.
Actually, we're going through that now with our kindergarten teachers. And we've also seen it in Eureka Math that we're starting to implement at Monahan Elementary, for example. The teachers recognize that they're getting students who are more prepared than they have been. So now we've got to coach them up. You're used to teaching at this level of rigor. Now your instructional coach has to go in and go into your planning sessions and say, wait a minute, we're not just doing single digit addition anymore. These kids are coming to you ready to do something different. And that was the first thing, that was the first big aha for us on the academic side was, wait a minute, these kids their brains are developing faster than we thought.
Yeah.
And we've got kindergarten teachers who are expecting a different student. So now we've got to coach them up. So I wouldn't say necessarily that we would take all of fueling brains with the thematic units and everything in first grade, but really the content of what they teach and the level of rigor is what we really need to be prepared for when this first cohort does get to first grade. We're expecting them to be better readers. We're expecting them to be better at, you know, numeracy. So by the time they get to third grade and we track that cohort, we should be able to see star scores reflect that if we continue to work with those first and second grade teachers on
Maintaining that.
Increasing that level every
accelerated
year.
rate of learning. Yeah.
If
That's a lot of work.
if they get to first grade and they're ready to learn at that rigor, and we're not spending so much time with remedial education, because we're spending a lot of time right now remediating for reading, because they're not coming to first grade knowing what they need to know with literacy and with their math literacy. So bridging that gap is going to make it so they're ready for the curriculum that we already have in place.
And I think the parents who keep their kids at home and don't enroll them in pre-K, I think this, like having a mini children's museum in each classroom, I'm taking a deep breath now about what pre-K enrollment is going to look like in the future. I'm excited about
it. A 26% increase in enrollment for pre-K.
And one of the other things I heard is that your attendance goes up, that kids want to, you know, they want to see it, especially if they're switching from one theme to another.
It's not like, you know, when our kids
I know, it's
started,
so,
you know, we coloring book page or whatever. These kids they're gonna enjoy it.
well, ours were the first ones at Cravens.
And I don't think I gave your kids coloring
But I mean,
pages.
no, you didn't.
So- But it was a new thing for that.
It was a new thing, but like with us, like some parents don't invest in, like back then with us, it was leapfrog.
Right.
Things like that. They don't invest in their children like, you know, I could say with me and Fred, we were all together, you know,
Yeah.
we invested in those things in our
Absolutely.
children. So it wasn't so hard for the teacher to grasp that, you know, with mine, it was hard to grasp the teacher, you already know. But he learned, he was smart, he learned. But now, when you put that into a classroom in this day and time, those kids are gonna wanna come.
And,
because-
and think of that with an English language learner,
Right.
where you are showing them a cooler, a canoe, instead of, you know, telling them. It's there. Yeah. So.
I just hope when they get to first grade, they're not wanting this experience. They're gonna get a regular classroom.
Then they're gonna start staying home.
Okay. So,
I'm excited to see the transfer.
so at
Hey, when
the,
y'all get it, I don't mean to cut y'all.
You're
When y'all
fine.
get it, can I, go to the, you know me, I'm a volunteer. I go and play on the floor with those kids. And I go and
we will,
Me and Aaliyah, it'd be me and Aaliyah, okay?
Should have a visitor thing.
okay, making a note of that, we'll hold you to it.
Yeah.
So, you'll see both contracts. You'll see a design contract and a fabrication contract coming at the July regular meeting for exhibit concepts. I want to talk to you just real quick, some summer projects. So in your board information packet, you will see that you have a facility sustainment projects This is in your packet, in your board book, and it will list out all of the facility sustainment projects that we have identified so far. We really surveyed the principals. We've walked campuses. We know that there are areas where we need to do some improvement, especially Bob McCreary Field. That press box needs some work. Okay. The other thing is we're finishing up roof assessments and playground assessments so that we can bring that forward. Some of our playground equipment at Royalwood and at Monahan and at Sheldon Elementary needs a little bit of work. Some of it's under warranty, but some of it needs replaced and some of it needs some work. Also, you'll see some items on safety and security. We would like to just make the board aware that there's been some law changes. And so, Ms. Herrera, you want to talk a little bit about the panic alarms?
So, since Uvalde, the legislator had kind of been talking about anyway, and the governor, about having some sort of system in all classrooms where teachers or whoever was in the classroom, in the event of, a tragedy, that they were a crisis, they would be able to have some sort of system to contact 911 or other first responders directly without having to fish for their cell phone or go to the phone on their desk to dial numbers. So it's what they decided on this legislative session is that we have to have a silent panic alert button of some sort in every single classroom. So that first, and they did settle with it. They wanted it directly to connect to first responders, 911 specifically. And so we are trying to see what we have in place now that already has the capability of providing that. And if any of you have alarm systems in your home, you may have a panic button on there. You may not know it, but there is a button on most of them that you push that and it immediately sends a call to 911. It's the same concept. So we think we have that capability built into some of our systems already at the high school and possibly at Lake. So we're looking to see what we need there, because we may not need to add the physical button itself. It may be there. We just need to pay to have it connected. But then we still have to have the hard button installed in all classrooms and all of our campuses.
And so that's going to be a cost. We do expect some additional security funds coming. But while we're doing some of our safety and security projects, that's something we're looking at. We will also be bringing forward the remainder of those public address systems. We talked about Knoll. We need to upgrade that one before we add on the wing so that we can just connect those in. And that should just leave us a couple like Garrett and one other campus, Carroll, I think it was, that we have yet to do. So those will be coming forward. Also maintenance projects, just to let you know, Dr. Saeed is working diligently on clearing work orders. So when he went in, there was well over 500 work orders, and I know that they've finished 200, and he's working on some different plans. One of the things we really want to implement is a preventative maintenance program in the district so that we know like every 3 months filters are changed. Every year you purchase this many vacuum cleaners so that we know ahead of time instead of being reactive so that we can take care of those items. You should have a packet in front of you that is for your land use. I know that the board has talked about a master plan for the use of the land. So I wanted to give you this. If you look at this page, the front pages on the 8.5 by 11 are the demographer's reports for 2021 to 2026, and then 2026 to 2030, looking at build out. So there's a number of tracks that we would be looking at, and I wanted to give you this. We're welcome to, of course, talk about it if you want to talk about it tonight, or if we want to give you some time to digest it, we can put this on the August workshop and come back to it. There are 4 tracks that we really want to look at. One is, well, let me give you an overview really quick. The pink areas are the properties that Sheldon ISD owns, and the ones with stripes are the ones that are not developed. So if you will look at the top of your map, In this area up, right up here, you'll see where Knoll Middle School and Garrett. There's approximately 30 acres there that is undeveloped. That's right over here. So it's to the east of Knoll. So between Lockwood and Knoll Middle School, the district owns approximately 30 acres there that has not been developed. Tract 2 is at the high school complex. That's that big pink block down at the bottom. And so you're going to see that you have about 39.4 acres north of Community Drive, adjacent to CE Clean Parkway. You have about 53 acres south of Community Drive, and that's going to be adjacent to where the 9th and 10th grade campus is. So it'll be to the west of the 9th and 10th grade campus, and then about 47 acres east of the 9th and 10th grade campus. That is if every acre is usable. Okay, so we know that we've got some wetlands out there that we need to do some work on, some mitigation. Tract 3, you have a 10-acre site in the front of Greensbrook subdivision. Okay, and so if you go up to Lake Houston Parkway, or what we call East Mount, then that is right up there. Now, 10 acres is not really enough to do a school, okay? Just to be honest, you're going to be looking at 16 acres for an elementary school. So I don't know what you want to do with that. If the board wants to think about that, if you want me to get some information about what maybe if you sold it, what a fair market value is for that property, we are more than happy to do that. If you have other ideas, then let me know. You
They're
also
still building homes in that area, right? They're still building.
They are still building homes up there. There's those 2 new apartment complexes, and right across up here, there's like 50 acres for sale now. And so I'm really kind of wondering what they're going to do. If you do look at your page on the front, you will see that on that second page, we're looking up there at about 340 to the north, multifamily homes, and to the south of it, 342. So there's some growth coming. And then on the third page, you will see that it says in that section 4, 260. Now, please be advised that may say 260, but a lot of that's in the floodplain area. So not really sure what's going to happen there, but we just need to be prepared for that area. So you do have 10 acres up there, but again, 10 acres trying to build a campus, you're not going to have enough room with detention. The other area is north of the transportation department, and there's about 30 acres there, and Freddie said about 20 is usable. Okay, so we have about 20 acres there. Those are things we need to be thinking about. I know that we would be looking in the future at maybe another early childhood, maybe another elementary, another middle school, talking through those things, thinking about, do we want to have all of our middle schools west of the Beltway? Because they are pretty much on one row, King Middle, and then if we put one at the high school complex. That's some thoughts. I know the board at one time had entertained an idea of a new ag barn. And where would we put that property? Or would we remodel, is there a way to reuse the ag barn that's there? It is a little bit of a distance. And so where could we put those properties? Okay. Oh, and I'm sorry, on the second page, I put Royalwood. And that's because looking at Royalwood, there's a possibility that there might be enough land behind Royalwood where you might be able to consider building a 2-story elementary, but utilizing the current cafeteria and West Wing building that are there. Those buildings were built later, so the cafeteria at Royalwood was built 2007.
7 or 8, yeah.
Yeah, 2007, 2008, while the actual main facility, the main building was built in the
50, 60.
in the 50s. So you're looking at a building that's about 70 years old, but there could be a possibility where, the district could look and say, we want to put a new elementary school, rebuild that, put it behind, and then demolish Royalwood and make that parking up front. So there's some options there. I think that's some time that the board's gonna have to spend together to really develop that master plan. And so happy we can bring that back up on August if you'd like.
I'd like to throw Monahan in that conversation.
Yes, and that might be another area too. And I'll pull that one. I should have added that one.
Yeah, I know we've done some renovations, we spent a little bit of money there, but so I think it's worse off than Royalwood.
So is this all the property that we have on this side,
Uh,
where Royalwood is, the Beaumont
Yeah,
area?
it is.
That's all we have left. That and the ag going further down.
Yeah, and of course, we're Sheldon Elementary and Sheldon Early Childhood.
So there's no extra room in that area either.
We'd have to look at purchasing.
Yeah, this is what we own already, and that's not.
Yeah,
bad.
I was just kind of getting the idea for something else.
And that 10 acres, at one point, we had talked about trying to do a land swap with EMS. They talked about, had interest in putting an EMS, either fire or EMS station there, but they've opened both those stations right down on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they just opened a new fire station there on Uvalde, and then the new fire station they built on Sheldon. And now they're getting ready to tear down the fire station on C. King, and they're gonna make it huge. It's gonna be the biggest one. I think they're buying that, because,
The inspection.
yeah, the inspection.
Mr. Beals.
Mhm. Yeah,
Do you,
I hate that,
But
because
that's,
that's always underground, that's always under, you can go and just pay a little bit extra.
Yeah.
would you be,
I think-
would the board be interested in just knowing what a fair market value would be on that property or?
I think- oh. Well, it's, okay. I don't know anything about it. That's what I heard.
I think that'd be a great idea though, just for us to know,
Yeah.
what fair market value is.
Yeah.
Just for us to just know
Mhm.
and then discuss later. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we need to do that.
Okay, and that concludes the bond and facilities report for the evening. I will add your floor plan, as I said, for Noel. We'll make sure that that's on your board information packet for the next month. Okay.
Okay. Any more questions on any of that? Good stuff?
I have a question on the alarm in the classroom. Are we gonna be charged any from when those alarms go off?
Feel like if a teacher hits an alarm, I'm
Or
Or just put it in, once we figure it out.
that we get charged every time they come out?
The fire, especially now they know with the fire alarm, because they put it
I mean, just, yeah,
Great question.
I really,
Enough funds to cover that.
Yeah,
I think not.
I know that our tech department was talking about looking at some things that we have in place now, but I think it's gonna be a concern, especially, you get to kids who are middle school age. They have a sub in the classroom and,
And I'll tell you something that we looked at and I'm gonna encourage, the guys to look at it again, is there's actually a panic alert button, but it scares me a little bit, but it's kind of like, even though the old I've fallen and I can't get up little button.
Yeah.
It's the same premise as those, and the teacher wears them around their neck. That way you don't have to worry about a kid hitting it or sending it. But then I worry, because I could see myself picking up a book or something, and then I call myself. But anyway, that's another option we can look at, is the personal panic button. And there's actually several states, I want to say 12 different states passed a law called Alyssa's Law. We passed one that's similar,
yeah.
but the original law mandates that you wear the teacher wears the panic button on the person.
I fall and change it up.
Yeah.
You can wear it on the wrist. I have one that goes on my wrist when I'm at home. So that, nobody's there and I have a seizure. I just hit the
Oh.
button. So you just hit it and, but it's very, you have to really press down on it. So it's not like you can, if I bump up into him, it's gonna go off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's something else we can look at, and I've been contacted by several companies who are selling the personal panic buttons, so.
This is where we are nowadays. You know, we bought ballistic shields for our law enforcement, we're panic button for our classroom, training for tourniquet it's just sad. It's just sad.
Welcome to teaching.
Yeah, you know, and that's just it. How much,
I know.
And it's not like only that at school, Fred, it's
Oh,
like that at home,
yeah, I know.
you know, it's like that.
It's just that,
You can't, my mom, she has a habit of letting her garage halfway up.
Oh.
And instead of letting it all the way down, she'll just let it halfway. And, someone went into her neighbor's house. They do the same thing and went into that neighbor's house and, you know, her garage door that comes on the inside, you know, they don't put a lock on it. So they just came in there and they, you know, or whatever.
My mom leaves her front door open while she's sitting inside watching TV.
So,
Yeah.
you know, it's.
Yeah, I know.
rough all over.
Yeah, I do that.
It is. Yeah, it's sad, sad. Is that all for,
Yep, we're on
bond facilities?
New
New
business.
business? Okay, moving on to new business, item A, it's the only agenda item we have to go on tonight. Well, open this, consider Frost Construction.
Okay, Mr. President, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve Cross Construction Company for construction for the Cravens ECA addition for a base proposal amount including owner selection alternatives 1 through 7 for a total cost not to exceed $5,492,000, which is the best value for the district. Furthermore, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate and execute the contract with the highest rank, proposal, I said that right? Yeah, that's proposer, to approve the amount and authorize expenditures that do not alter the contract's cost or contract time, with a copy to be attached and become a part of the minutes.
Motion by Ms. Archie. Who was that? Martinez, Ms. Martinez. Second by Ms. Martinez. Comments or questions? So the 370,000 deduction, that's because we're doing the, why is that a deduction there?
So, Mr. Rivas, the way that we generally structure your request for proposals is that we have them submit in two parts. They submit an initial bid, which if you've been in a bid room, if you ever have the fortune or misfortune to be in a bid room, they're getting bids faxed in, emails are coming, and the contractor's working very quickly to try and assemble what they believe the real cost of that project is. We always ask for alternates on your project so that you have award flexibility like we have tonight. And one of the alternates that we ask for is a modification of the base proposal. And that alternate proposal comes a couple hours later. So between the time that they give you their original number and the time that they submit their alternate proposals, they're given some time to maybe double check their numbers to verify that they have scope covered or maybe they have scope gaps. And so if you look at the list that's in front of you, you'll see that most of the proposers offered a deduct, where I think there was one that may have added.
Yeah,
You know, I missed something along the way that I need to pick up. So that's the reason that you see that alternate. And it gives us more confidence in the award, and it gives generally a better value to the district, as you see in this case.
Okay. And so, the backup generator is in there, in that proposal.
It is. It's
And,
an alternate, yes.
and is there a generator there already? No, right, okay. More comments or questions? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, more information, 9th, 10th grade, item A, 9th, 10th grade campus updated floor plans, we saw that, and then we'll have a aerial type view for the meeting, our regular board meeting.
Yeah.
22 safety bond and security projects, 2022 bond facility, sustainment projects, which you saw this morning, comments from the public. We need to go into closed session. Okay. Okay. Adjourn to closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551072 to discuss purchase, exchange, lease value, real property 551074, personnel matters. Consider and discuss employment ending employment of Ellie Monahan, school teacher, TA docket 057 LH 05 2023, and related matters for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment evaluation, reassignment duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer, employee, or to hear complaints or charges against a public officer, employee 551076 for considering employment, specifications for or implementation of security personnel devices at 8:01.
Well, how are you? Good to see you.
I'll give you the information. I'm gonna take, this is, I'm gonna take it out. And it's muted as well. No problem.
I know.
I like it up here.
Yeah, yeah.
Is this mine?
That's okay. Thank you.
Right. Okay. All right, we'll reconvene at 8:33 into open session. And moving on to item 11, personnel A.
Mr. President, it's recommended the board accept the superintendent's recommendation to rescind the proposed suspension without pay and termination of a teacher and approve the resignation and release agreement as discussed in closed session. I further move to authorize the superintendent to execute the agreement and carry out other administrative tasks to effectuate same with a copy to be attached and come part of it.
That motion by Ms. Archie, second Ms. Martinez. All those in favor? Motion passed unanimous. Okay, moving on to item 12A, policy update for adoption.
Mr. President, it's recommended the Shelton ISD Board of Trustees adopt the board policy local that are included in the TASB update 121 with the copy to be attached and become a part of it.
Motion by Ms. Archie, second Ms. Martinez. Comments or questions? All those in favor? Motion passed unanimous. Okay, other necessary business, board meeting July 18th, 2023 at 7 p.m. on our regular board meeting. 14, board suggestion recommendations for future organizational information updates. Item 15, suggestions for future agenda items. Okay, then we'll adjourn at 8:35.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Y'all can,
Did you sign the?
keep these,
No, I didn't.
oh, that's public anyway, right?
And I think you can scan it with your
She
phone.
sent it.
Send it to me.
She sent it to me.
Yeah.